I just want to emphasize that this is not a sales call. Not at all. Today's webinar is all about, excuse me, providing honest and transparent insights. We are good. She is good. This webinar is all about providing honest and transparent insights to the intranet process, to the buying process just in general. We are here to help you. It's kind of like what makes an organization a good fit for an intranet, and then the keys to ensuring it makes for a successful implementation. So that's what today is, not a sales call at all. We are here to help you, hopefully, with questions and all the good stuff. Also, I just want to shout out to, please be sure to feel free to drop your questions in the QA box. We're going to be addressing those and getting to those all throughout the webinar. We're not going to hold them just for the end. We're going to shout them out as we go from section to section, so that way we can make sure to get to them instead of just holding them for the end, but we will get to them at the end as well. And then as soon as we're done here, you're going to get a survey that pops up in your browser afterwards, and we would just greatly appreciate if you could take a few moments to provide your feedback for us. So, and as you can see, it's not just me here. We have the lovely Melissa Gavaretti with us. We are very fortunate to have her. She is our Senior Enterprise Sales Manager, and she has extensive experience across all various industries, and she's well equipped to address any questions you might have about an intranet. If it's a question about an intranet product, she's probably heard it before, and so she can be very helpful in answering that for you. Some of you actually might know her because you've worked with her or seen her before in a project that you're currently doing or had done with us. So anyways, Melissa, hello. You can take it away.
Hi. Okay. I'm so pumped to do this. I really want to shout out our team, Alex and Amy, because really the whole place where this started was we would repeatedly get the same questions. People would be scared to ask questions. There were sometimes things we would volunteer to an organization who was coming to meet with us, all while they were going throughout their intranet evaluation process. The questions, I never want you to feel like the questions are too silly. And so today we want to talk about the things we hear the most, the things people aren't asking. And essentially what happened is our team bundled that all up into an intranet buyer's guide. That's a resource that I send to a lot of people, purely just to help you know what to ask. These are things that on my day one at Xero, I wouldn't have known to ask. And I have the luxury of getting to meet with people every day. And so I hear the questions over and over again. So today what we want to do is really peel back the layers on what that buying process is. We want to talk about some of the things people ask the most, some of the hiccups people make, some of the things that will, make you cry directly into a Zoom recording. We want to cover all of those things. Like Amy said, this isn't a sales call. So this is an opportunity for us to have our coffees together. And we're going to talk about some of the things that we see happen. Like Amy said, we're going to answer questions. So, you can always be like, I heard, or this is for a friend. Surely it would never be for you. Of course, drop those in the chat if you're wondering. This is a time for you to have a person who can just be honest about what we're seeing, what we're hearing, where those gaps are, how do we prevent heartbreak, but ultimately, how do we get a project done if it makes sense to do it? So, okay, the first question that people don't always know is, what is my problem? Amy, a lot of times people come to you, you're the first person, you're our SDR, she's the beautiful face and voice that people meet at first. What are some of the things that people say to you when they come into the process?
I've heard all different things. I feel like I've heard almost all the things, but a majority of it is all like they're disconnected. There's not a way to easily find information. They've merged and they're bringing teams together and they have files in one place, but oh no, they had them on Google over here, but we had them on Microsoft over here. So how do we fix that? What is like disconnected? Trying to get morale up, a way to like be more interactive with teams, especially if they're all remote, things like that. Just wanting to bring everyone together easily.
Totally. Well, we're going to reframe what is my problem to ask the question that people don't say a lot of times on our first call. And that question is like, do I need an intranet? Yeah. Some people, like you said, they have every variety of questions. We're going to talk about the questions that usually are answered by, yes, you do need an intranet. And part of this is we're going to start by going, what is an intranet? But we have had people who like, Maybe what they needed was a project management tool. Maybe
Yeah,
what they needed was a project manager on their team. Maybe what they needed was some form of like Slack, Teams. We don't have to promote one over the other. And so sometimes teams are trying to figure out something to solve a solution. And like an intranet's kind of this like vague, like, what is it?
yeah,
And so to even start the buyer's guide, you would not believe how many people come to us, and I don't know that what they actually need is an intranet. So we're going to start by talking about what is an intranet.
yes.
For my folks who have been in calls with me, you have seen this site before. I like to describe an intranet as a pizza pie with 3 slices. Those slices tend to be internal communications. So a crossroads for the world, we have announcements, we have newsletters, we have broadcasts, we have the ability to do this for the entire organization, or to break it into spaces and say, hey, this is just something that is relevant for HR. Hey, this is a space for a regional office to be able to manage their comms. Hey, don't come into the office today. We're having some sort of weather event. Um, it is announcements about things that you owe, like your required reading. Hey, don't forget you owe this piece of compliance, confirmation. It is anything internal comms. And by internal, I mean sometimes people have clients on here. And so they're looking for ways to tell their clients, hey, this is what's coming up. Xero, that's what we use our support community for. It's for communication with clients. So it doesn't just have to be your team member. When I say internal, I mean anybody who's on the site. Pizza slice number 2, knowledge. Anything in the category of files, anything in the category of natively crafted content. With a great intranet, so here's one where we have a wiki. They built their handbook out right here in the Xero platform. With a great intranet, you're going to have a really solid search. It's going to search through the bodies of PDFs. It's going to search through those tags. It will also search through people. Xero also released Copilot last year actually. That's our AI search. And so going from being able to ask questions like, or searching holiday schedule to being able to say things like, is Labor Day a holiday?
Yeah.
So a great intranet is going to have a solid search. Xero's intranet is going to have that solid knowledge component. The third component is all things people. That might be something like recognition. That might be something like birthdays and anniversaries. That might be any sort of like engagement, whether it's a marketplace, a mentorship space, top-down communication, or horizontal communication. It is like a CEO's corner. It is everything that connects people. It is photos of your dog dressed up for Halloween. Those are my favorite spaces. So a solid intranet is going to be a single window into the world. Now, sometimes you're going to be a company where everything lives in the intranet. That's it. Some of you have really robust requirements around integrations, around making sure your tools are accessible, things that don't actually live in the internet, and that's okay too. And we're going to talk about like where to set our expectations for an out-of-the-box intranet, but 50,000 foot view, it is a single window into the world. Xero is available on web and mobile, so you'll also see people who really focus on their frontline workers, people who are out in the field, in construction, in a warehouse, real estate agents. An intranet is a way to bring all of those people together. So perhaps you were like, oh, well, I wanted my intranet to do all these really specifically, like do all of our Gantt charts and do all this project tracking. What you may be looking for is a project management tool.
Yeah.
Perhaps what you are looking for is something that's going to take all of your documents, scan them from PDFs, and then translate them into a Word document. Something slightly different. So if you're sitting on the call and you're like, I wondered if what we needed is an intranet. There are some elements in here. We have a ticketing system, we have project management and tasks in here. So it doesn't mean that those things don't exist, but we want to start by going, what is my real problem? What is actually happening? Because is an intranet actually what I need? So that's that 15. Okay. So, Amy, let's say for the people on this call, you've decided, okay, I actually do need an intranet. I want a way to section off different divisions. I want to be able to apply permissions. I want to be able to set governance around, um, like, hey, reminders to check my content. Is this stuff dusty and crusty? Let's transition into the next phase. So we've
Yeah.
just done, what is my problem? Let's say we've just decided I need an intranet. That's the solution. Okay.
Okay,
Next.
question.
Mhm.
Who do I need?
Yeah.
Who runs this? How does it start? Is it just me who does it? Bob from IT told me to go chase down a new intranet because the one we're using doesn't work, but I just started 3 weeks ago and I have no idea how to do this. Help me.
Mhm.
So we've
Yeah.
heard things all like that.
Mhm. So how do I get started is that next window. And I want to go deeper than normally where we are. If I had $1 for every meeting that I had with somebody where they're like, oh, I'll tell my boss and they'll buy it. I wish. And for the 1 out of 10 times that that was accurate, like truly hire me. Because that sounds like a great organization. But
Dream.
most people have multiple levels of reviews. We want that involvement. It's not a bad thing to have multiple people involved, to ask the questions of what do I need on my platform, and to have a sense of timeline. Sometimes we just need to go deeper than what we think.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with, who do I need? A lot of times when we're having these meetings, what I'm going to say is like, we're often aware of our own section of the organization. But what I would encourage you to do in the who do I need process, when you don't have somebody like me, Melissa, calling you every, 7 days on the dot, is to really go explore who in your organization needs to be involved.
Yeah.
Are there other divisions who are also looking for something that can manage your knowledge? Are there, is there a board of directors that has to approve budget? And those people only meet once a month. And so if you find something that you really want, and you're ready to get going, the momentum's there, and you pick it on the 1st of the month and you still have to wait till the 30th, those are good things to know.
Yeah.
How does your security team review security? For my folks in my finance, my healthcare, my government, especially,
Mhm.
IT and security is going to be a big part of your process. What do they need to feel good? Do they do some sort of security review? Do they want to see some sort of SOC reports and they want to have time with a vendor's team? A lot of times our security and IT teams are sitting in on calls with them to be able to address specific questions to your organization. And so sometimes it can be scary because you're like, oh, I don't know. I don't know who I even need to talk to, which is another great reason to have an intranet. But
Sure.
getting really familiar with the who of your team. Some of our clients come to us because they're like, hey, I've kind of been this bottleneck in the process, in that, like, I run the intranet, but I want to democratize this. I want to be able to have marketing post their stuff. I want HR to post their stuff. I want IT and product.
Yeah.
Well, what I say is go talk to them now. Go meet with them. Go put a name to a face. Do not wait until the project starts, because question number 2 is, what do I need on my platform? Those are, and sometimes people try and overcomplicate it. You'll hear the word, like you'll hear marketing buzzword of like, what is your content on your intranet? Boil it down. What's the stuff that's on your intranet? Do we need a copy of our HR handbook?
Yeah.
Do we need our marketing logos?
Yeah.
Do we need events? Do we need to be able to show all of our all hands? Would we like to embed our town hall? Those are the questions to start asking your team. And I would specifically ask the question of, what do you need on day 1?
Yeah.
So go to HR, go to IT. What are the things people ask you for all the time? Sometimes the question, you get a better answer depending on how you ask it. So what are the things people come to you all the time that if you had a place for it to live, would ease your life? Some of
Yeah.
those things being like my benefits. or as simple as just having something like a launchpad that's like, hey, I never remember where our CRM is or where I'm supposed to post my time off request or my receipts. Sometimes it's as simple as creating a button that says, post your receipts here, and it directs you. And so asking your teams, what are those things that they need so that you make sure that that's a part of your intranet purchasing.
Yes.
The third one is timeline. When do I launch? Amy, when people call you, what do they usually say as far as when they would like their intranet?
I've heard it all, have no idea. But my favorite one is, oh, yesterday, we needed this in place yesterday.
Yes.
Or, you know, you've said this, Melissa, it's like a gym. Everybody wants to start the new year, new me, new intranet.
Mhm.
So we've heard all of it.
Yeah. We're in that pipeline right now. Amy's exactly right. The intranets are like the gym. Everyone wants to start on January 1, which I love. I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But do that backwards math. When do your fiscals start over? Do you have budget that's left? If you want to launch on January 1, is your Q4 your busiest time? Our higher eds, their summertime is when they have a lot of time to be implementing and making some of these decisions. We would never expect them to be very busy at the start of a semester. Same thing with like our folks in finance, especially our accountants.
Yeah.
March, April, May, June, they're not launching an intranet. They are heads down. And so I know it sounds silly. These questions sound very basic, but I say back it up. Every intranet is going to be a little bit different as how they do their implementation. For Xero, some of those questions we're going to ask you are like, when is the team busiest?
Mhm.
Is there a window of time? We're about to go into the holiday season. Would your team like to take some holidays? And so it doesn't mean that you can't launch on January 1. Again, that's a very busy and popular time for people to launch their intranets. It makes sense.
Mhm.
So factor that in now. Sometimes people are like, we'll decide in October and then we'll launch January 1. And in truth, an intranet can be launched in that amount of time, but factor in what other projects are on the board. Are there other implementations you're about to do? Did you just come through a really big, savage implementation and your team needs a little bit of a break?
Yeah.
Perhaps your team is like on a roll and you're like, hey, we do not want to slow down. And so that is a good thing to keep in mind when your team is like really pumped, really ready to go, and you can leverage some of that momentum. So when is our timeline? If you can share kind of an accurate picture of what you're working with, a vendor should be able to give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down about like, yes, we can, no, we can't, or have you thought about this?
Yeah.
So those are some big questions to ask yourself about how do I get started?
A lot of times in our first calls, we ask these questions and it's not us being pushy or like, what's your budget? What's your timeline? It's not us being pushy at all. It's just to help us understand like how can we help you? How can we get this started? And what I've heard just from the beginning of this call, it's questions, 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 questions within your team. Find out who, find out when, find out where. There's no question that's silly. There's no question that's like, oh, I don't know if this applies. Ask questions. Always ask the questions, either with us or within your team internally. It
Yeah,
helps us get this going.
absolutely. Well, and one of the things that will be coming to you after this meeting is a buyer's guide for
Yes.
you, which will walk you through resources, places where you can start to mentally jot some of these things down. Again, people sometimes are hesitant, but I'm like, go ahead and write it down because once you see it, we're like, oh, no, no, I know it's going to be this, this, this. I hear you. Write it down. Because once it's down, you can start to put the puzzle pieces together. One of the things we're going to send you after this is a resource guide for you and your team to be able to do that. Literally make sure you know the name of the person you're talking to, because sometimes time gets eaten up in some of these processes where you're like, is it Don or is it Jen? I don't know. Those are some of my friends at one of our other projects. And so knowing who you need to be talking to, knowing who the point person is, that saves a lot of life later on in the project if you can get a clear sense of what those team members need and how that might impact.
We
But
just had a question pop in,
yeah,
Melissa. Generally speaking, how long should we plan for the setup prior to going live? Before, let's unlock that door, let's walk in. generally about how long do they need to prep for?
Okay. I'm going to give you some numbers. And sometimes people are like, oh, just tell me a hard figure. Okay. So we have had some teams. What I'll tell you is this: the teams that are that have their ducks in a row tend to move quicker. So one of our fastest implementations was with an organization that was implementing elsewhere. They were hitting those hurdles and they came to Xero and they said, if we can do this in a week, we will do it. And so we literally did it in a week. Do I recommend that to anybody? Absolutely not. But I think what the testament of that was they knew the architecture that they wanted. They knew the spaces that they wanted. They knew the people on their team. They knew the stuff that they wanted to go on their site. And so any sort of order that you can bring to your project helps speed up that timeline.
Yep.
So like I had one, I famously like to talk about them. I had one group that they had a couple of thousand, we'll say roughly. They had a big split between frontline workers, people who are going to be on mobile, and people who are going to be at desks. They did theirs in around 40 to 60 days. I had one 200-person credit union. So think high security, high IT requirements. They were implementing multiple systems at once. And they were like, if you make us go fast, we will lay down and we will cry in front of you. They did theirs in about 8 months. So, and for Xero, we happen to we don't do implementation by hour. So it was fine for them. They got to take their time. Where I usually tell people is, if you are thinking in that 90-day range, I think that is a great buffer. When you start to go into holiday time, sometimes I will tell people add a little bit to that because you want to factor in people are going to be away for the holidays. People are going to be, out of the office. But, we usually try to be in that 10 to 20 week range. Here's the other thing I'll tell you. If you're the person who's over there planning and trying to like factor this all out, every project grows after they launch.
Yep.
So the other thing I will say that you can picture is that if you have a deadline, like we've had clients who are like, hey, we have a big, like our all hands or our team, our company meeting is coming up. We want to be able to launch something there. We want to use the momentum of having everybody. Every team plans to expand. So it is okay if you say, hey, phase 1, we're going to launch with this homepage, this like a brand new onboarding space, this the HR space and a comm space, and we're going to do that in 8 weeks. And then beyond that, we want to add, we are going to turn on all the recognition features. We want all of our bank branches to have their own locations. We're going to essentially make a template for them, and then we'll clone it over for all 20 branches. So also, I have had clients, I'm going to steal what one of them said, do not feel like you have to boil the whole ocean in a day. So depending on how big the scale and scope is, if you're like, no, we are not turning the lights on and letting everybody on until like all 25 of our spaces are done and beautiful and pristine, give yourself a little bit of extra wiggle room.
Yeah.
If you are on the side where you're like, hey, we can start with these 3 spaces, this homepage, and like a really solid set of badges that people can award to one another, you can scoot that timeline in a little more narrow and still communicate with your implementation manager. Hey, for a phase 2, we want to have a client portal. We want to like open up a section for client. Your implementation manager can talk to you about those things so that when you feel ready, you toggle it on. And so overall, it may be this compounding process, but for Xero, I say if we're looking in that, 10 to 20 weeks, depending on your size and scale, that tends to be where most people fall. Certainly that can move quicker. Certainly if you're like, we got to take our time, we got a bunch of stuff, that's okay too.
And I love that, we kind of set the pace for each other in a project like this, but I love what you said, like with Xero, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. We can turn certain features on and we can go January 1st, let's kick it. And then in February, we'll release, like you said, recognition and things like that. So that's one thing about our product that I love, that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to use all the features all at once and be way overwhelmed. You don't have to jump out of the helicopter into the ocean. You can start from the beach and ease your way in.
Yes. Yes.
And then another question really quick is, can you
Yeah.
also have subspaces for your subspaces? So can a space have a space?
Yes, yes, yes. And you absolutely can. At least with an Xero platform, you absolutely can. And there are reasons why you might do it, or you might have a pretty flat, you might have spaces all the way across, even for something in your mind that you might consider a subspace. But certainly you can keep nesting to your heart's content.
Yeah.
So if it makes sense, there it is. The capability is there. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So we've decided all this. Who do I need? What do I need? How do I go? Where do we go?
Yeah.
So what's next, Melissa?
Great question. How do I get started is everything that you can figure out before you ever call me, before you ever get a vendor involved. And every vendor is going to be different. There are so many great vendors. And I try to tell people there's nothing right or wrong. It's like what fits your organization. So after, y'all feel like you have a sense, you have a working place, it's always going to evolve. That's okay. Nothing has to be written in stone. The next step is, how do I buy an intranet? And this is where I can be a help to you as a vendor. So as a vendor, there are sometimes things that I'm like, I'm going to offer them to you so that you have that as a tool. The first thing is usually a live demo. Some teams, they have their point person. They're like, I want to look at this by myself, and then I'll introduce other people and we'll do a team demo. Some people are like, we want to do really focused demos, like HR wants to speak with you, and then we'll do something separate for executive teams. Absolutely, yes. What is helpful is if you can also have a sense of what you need out of it. We'll volunteer things as a vendor, but if you're like, hey, we want to see how files get uploaded, or I want to see how an event goes on a calendar, I would like to see everything related to engagement. Those things are great. So if you have a sense of like, these are the things that are important to us, you tell your vendor that that is what is important to you. If you're a person who's like, hey, I'm in education mode, sometimes people are like nervous to tell me like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to buy an intranet. I just want to learn. That is okay. That is how you, that is how you buy an intranet, is getting yourself educated on what's out there, what's in the market. I eat, breathe, and drink this stuff, but you do not have to wake up an intranet expert tomorrow. So tell your vendors what you're thinking of, how you want those to be structured. They can help you. IT and security reviews. Sometimes teams want to send a bunch of questions. They have a questionnaire that gets filled out. Sometimes teams want to send an NDA and then they want to look at reports. You can set up time. So I know that I have a glowing personality, but I will a lot of times get some people who are a little bit more intelligent than me to join for those calls. So it's okay to feel like on your demo, you don't have to get into the nuts and bolts of some of these things where really we probably need an expert.
Yeah.
And so, or you're like, oh, if our comms people have to listen to us talk about like hardware storage and data storage, hardware storage is separate, but like data storage and the hardware that's like,
You're gonna go
we
crazy.
need, we need to separate these. That's okay. So that nobody feels the pressure that they have to hurry or they can't derail the meeting. It's okay to ask for a separate IT or security review. We talked about executive team decision maker demos. That's totally fine. Sometimes those demos aren't even a full product demo. They're like, hey, they want to ask you 3 questions and then talk about contract terms. That is fine.
Yeah.
Everything does not have to be a 60-minute, 90-minute block on your calendar from a vendor. You can say, hey, can we take 20 minutes? My CEO wants to talk about this. My CTO wants to cover these things, and it would help if you could communicate it. Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
Pricing calls live in there. There are a lot of things that vendors can do. You might be a 501c3, you didn't realize, that there's savings for you. You might have a really quick project, or you want to get creative about like, hey, we're going to start with 200 folks and then we're going to expand out. How might I grow? What can I expect? Have a pricing call. You don't have to leave anything in the gray or the vague. Meet with your team, talk through what you're expecting, and they can give you options. Certainly legal reviews, and then certainly everything that leads into implementation and beyond. These are things that people are asking for all the time. So if you're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that, absolutely you can do that.
A
Put
lot of
these in your
times,
pocket.
right? A lot of times seeing is believing. And my mom still asks me to this very day, what is it you do again? What's an intranet? And I'm like, so sometimes seeing is believing. And especially if you are a larger team or even not a big team, like different people might need to see different things. And so I love that at Xero, that's what we can do for you. We can show you HR is going to be interested in this part, or IT is going to want to see this thing. And so don't ever hesitate or be afraid to ask us, hey, do you mind to show us that again? Or can we see it and you record it and send it to us?
Yeah.
100%. We're here for you guys.
I would always rather a client be disappointed before you have signed a contract.
Yes.
So do not be afraid to say, hey, I need to see this. This is like really the linchpin of our project, because either you need to be able to sleep soundly knowing that you're going to select an intranet that really works for you,
Yeah.
or we need to not, and
Yeah.
like, again, there are different vendors, there are different things where it's like, hey, that's actually the right fit. It is okay to ask for these things. It is okay to ask for them multiple times. Or, it's okay to give direction as well. I have some teams that are like, please do not make this meeting technical at all. The folks who are joining this call, they're a little intimidated because of this situation. Can we really keep this on like a user level? Absolutely. That is great feedback, because ultimately your team needs to be able to feel comfortable to ask questions. Any guidance that you can give to make sure that your team ultimately can have the discussions you need to have, that's what matters. So
Yes.
I like to tell people you are not the first to ask. So if you're like, hey, is it good? Do you think it'd be okay? It should always be okay. You are spending time and money on this. It should always be okay. So
Yes. Love that.
that does bring us to this last section.
Dun, dun, dun.
What
So
kills you?
what kills it? So as much as we like to be prepared and, at the beginning, let's ask the questions, let's find the team. So one thing that comes to mind, we give you a price, we're kind of into this, but you realize that the dollar amount is $1 over what requires you to have this be an RFP. Or, uh-oh, this is more than what we budgeted for this season. Sorry, it's going to have to wait till 2020, never. So again, we've kind of discussed on how to avoid those things, but Melissa, what do you think could be better help to help us avoid this at all costs?
Yes. So first of all, one of the things I will say is ask this question. Ask your vendors, who is a great fit for you? What kind of client is a great fit for you? Where do you see implementations fail? Where do you see projects fail? It is okay to ask those things explicitly. Some of you are really bold and you're really brave and you've done this before. And so you can do that. But if you are somebody who would not, just know you can ask that question. Things that ultimately it boils down to this: nobody likes a surprise. Nobody. So when it comes to the momentum it takes to do all this, it is finding out, hey, if we go $1 above $10, do we have to do an RFP? And then if we do an RFP, it has to be live for 30 days and we have to get 5 bidders and then we have to present that. It's okay if that's your process. Those processes are there to help safeguard your organization, make sure you're spending your money wisely. What people don't like is when they find that out last minute. And by people, I mean, forget even your vendors. I mean, internally with yourself. It can crush the momentum.
Yes.
Asking things like, oh, I thought we had budget, but we didn't have budget. Sometimes I've had a really big project get all the way down the road and then realize another division on the other end of the building didn't realize that they were doing something very similar and they had picked somebody else too.
Yeah.
So now we're in this kind of like vague, murky area where we're like, wait, which we pick different things. Do we arm wrestle? What happens?
Yeah.
That is a big reason we say go find out who should be involved in this project, because that it can kill the momentum for your team. Executive buy-in, and I'm going to say this delicately in the event we have executives on this call. Some of my project teams purposefully try to leave their executives out, and we don't have to talk about why you do that. But just know this: part of Xero's implementation includes executive sponsor check-ins. And a
Yeah.
lot of times our executives are part of the project team. They're involved, they're hands-on. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a person who is like, for whatever reason, my executive will not be involved throughout the majority of this process, we still say it's important because we have had projects get right to the finish line. They are hyping it up with their team. They're like, hey, y'all, this is coming on Monday. The executive gets their first opportunity to really see what's been done. And they're like, why is this like this? And
Yeah.
again, people don't like, nobody has to be a villain in that situation, but nobody likes a surprise. So even if there are people that you are delicately trying to navigate the relationship around a project, I do encourage you, find those opportunities prior to launch day or prior to decision day that you can give them a space that is like safe and they got plenty of wide open space to share what they think, so that that doesn't come to the end and and you're having a project be stopped completely right at the finish line.
Yeah.
These are the sorts of things, boil it down to, nobody likes a surprise. People just want to be informed. And one of those things that can happen is sometimes I understand why teams are busy. We don't want to put something on their radar if we're about to if they're busy doing other things until we're ready to go. But if they have no notice, I will tell people in sales calls, start telling your teams now to start looking for their files. You don't have to tell them they're getting an intranet even, but just be like, hey, do you know where the most current version of this policy is? Because what people don't like is you being like, an intranet's coming tomorrow and you're going to help build it. And they're like, what's up? And they're like, I hope you know where all your documents are. And you're like, I haven't looked in our SharePoint drive in 6 years. That's what people don't want.
Yeah.
The project is good, but the last minute pressure, where if you started evaluating in August, start telling people, be looking for this stuff, be finding the items, start throwing some old stuff away. People are always trying to hook up they're like, we got 23 years worth of files and we're afraid to dust the cobwebs off. Give them as much leeway as you can, because implementation, intranet, when we sign the contract, that is not the end of the line. That is the start of the line. And so if that process has been topsy-turvy and now the team is like not even looking forward to the implementation, that's a really hard place to start what is actually the beginning of the project.
It is.
Yes.
Yes.
But if your blood pressure just spiked at that, here's what I will tell you. If you have done a solid job during your own evaluations, you know who your people are, you know what you need on your intranet, you know your timeline. Hey, I want this to be phased. I want this, like, it's going to be all done and we're unveiling it like the Magic Kingdom. Like, whatever those things are, when you know those things, it makes, to the question asked earlier, it makes implementation so much smoother, because that is the first thing an Xero implementation manager will ask you about.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know your timelines. They want to know, they're going to want to meet your project team. And the more you can say, hey, I've had people show up with things written on a piece of paper, a photo of a napkin, and they're like, we think this might be what we want our homepage to look like. That is great. Any information you have helps the implementation process go better. So if you are willing to figure out your preferences, what your company needs during your evaluation process, the implementation does not have to be this awful experience, because you have already done the work. You have already figured out what you need. Implementation gets to be something where you just get to see it brought to life with your team.
A lot of time, like, you're already coming to us with a disarray. There's some type of pain point. There's something that you're needing, you're missing, and that you're coming to us for help with. So we want to help you with that. We want it to be like an episode of Hoarders, but then you end with an episode of The Home Edit where it's like so beautiful and organized. Like, that is our goal, that we want it to be. We want you to be successful. We want to help you. And so, yes, having all those ducks in a row definitely helps with implementation. A little bit of a debate here. We had a question come in, and Melissa, you're more knowledge of this than I am. Does the price depend on the amount of users that you have for Xero?
So for Xero, we are a per user platform. Yeah. We have a certain range where for certain organizations, when you are 100, 150, rather than do per user, we try and package those things all together. But beyond that, everything is per user. As you grow, that per user average comes down. So Xero wants to make it really easy that as you tier and expand, if you double in size, you're not doubling your price.
Yeah.
So, and Xero especially, but really speak to your vendors as you grow and expand. Those per user prices are things you can talk about in your pricing calls. How can I budget for this? What should I expect? For Xero, yes, it is per user. Um, but Xero is an organization that we try and bundle everything in. So for that per user cost, we decided to factor in 24/7 service and support that's provided by Xero, not a third party. All your updates and upgrades. We include a mobile app for Apple and Android. We include, for our cloud clients, it's all of your hosting, your backups, your security, and storage. So every vendor's a little different. Xero doesn't necessarily do like, we don't we don't separate out your features like, hey, you just get your project features. For us, we give you the full basket. We give you everything that's in the treasure trove and let you control when those things turn on or turn off based on your phased approach. Other vendors will do things differently, and that's okay. It's about finding what works for you. But for Xero, and that's again, in your pricing questions, ask some of these things. Xero's price factors in all of those things included. We typically only have a one-time implementation
Mhm.
cost. That's the only other thing. There's no like mandatory luxuries is what I call them, where it's like, you don't have to buy this, but your internet will have no lights. Like
Yeah.
your house will have no faucets or doorknobs. We
No.
want to factor all that in. So it is per user, but there's a lot that's built into that. And, we can talk through further for
Yeah,
whoever sent a question in.
absolutely. Be sure to ping
Yeah.
us if you want to go into further of that, email us. Um, Speaking of questions, is there any more questions anybody has that you're hesitant to ask? I think that's the whole point of this call is don't be afraid to ask questions. That's what we're here for. Melissa, was there anything else that you felt like you needed to touch on? Anything that we might have skipped over?
I think the whole point of being able to do the buyer's guide conversation was wanting to give, like, if you had a friend who was in your living room who also sold intranets and you knew your organization was buying an intranet, what would,
What would you ask?
what would you ask and how could they help you? And
Yeah,
so, yes, vendors have all kinds of things that they're trying to accomplish, and we have our own sales goals and things like that. But for the most part, like when we talk about your intranet, it is the living room to your house. It is the home, the online home for your organization. So ask the questions that you need. Don't be afraid to, um, you know, ask the questions that maybe feel uncomfortable, like who is a good fit for you, who isn't.
yeah,
Does this make sense for us? Any of those questions, that is good. Because also your partner, your vendor will be your partner in a lot of ways. They will be a person you invite in a, in some capacity into your living room. And so I always tell people questions you should ask about. Where is your support located? Um, Talk to me about how you're growing. Like, how do the clients have a voice in your roadmap? What is that experience like? Hey, if I need help at 1 a.m., how do I get help at 1 a.m.? Those are the things that happen in real life in a house, right? Like the pipes never find a leak at a convenient time. It's at weird times. And so, ask those questions about what it will be like to live in your home. And you should be able to expect that your intranet vendor is going to be a partner to you in these things. They can speak honestly and clearly about that. They can, they have other homes that they support. And so
yeah.
they should be able to communicate about like the day-to-day management of a platform. It's okay to ask those questions too.
I love that. All
Yeah.
right, one more last question. I know we're really close on time right here.
Yeah.
You build functional components for users to have special application needs. How are they paid for?
Say that one more time.
Do you build functional components for users that have special application needs?
This
And
is
how
a
are they
great
paid?
this is a great question. Absolutely, yes. So if you've never had an intranet before, um, you may not know what comes standard with an intranet. Also, if you have come from having a custom built intranet, your intranet may do some things that you're like, hey, I've been looking at these out of the box intranets, and how come none of them will start my car in my garage? And that's because you had something that was custom built for your organization, and that was normal for an intranet. So that is a great question to say, yes. At least for Xero, I can speak for us. why am I in the middle of the screen? I don't know. Xero does offer development services where if you have something that is special to you, where you're like, hey, all this stuff is great, but we also really need, some that I can think of is like, we need the ability to collect monthly reporting from all of our bank branches. Or we would like an onboarding task list that when a new member joins the team, these 15 tasks come out that walk them through how to get onboarded. And that may not be something that's needed. Perhaps you want notifications from a certain tool to appear, or you want Confluence to appear in your search results, something like that. And you're like, I'm not seeing Confluence on their integrations page. Yes, at least in Xero world, I'll speak for us, we do have the ability to do custom development. Again, how is it priced? That is going to come down to what your requirements are. So for some people, they're like, I just want a notification. For some people, they're like, I want a notification. And when I search, it appears here in this window in this order. Those are going to be slightly different. And so one of the first things we're going to do as part of a scoping call is ask you, what is considered a successful build? What are the things you need to see? You do not have to know the answer on that call, but it is good to start thinking, hey, do I want it to send an email afterwards? Or like, would I want it to appear here? And then I want it to update. And then I want it to, those are going to be things that our team is going to ask. Hey, do you want it to be in red? Do you want it to turn a different color after 3 days? Those sorts of things. A lot of times, if the API capability exists, or if it's something that you can do with a little CSS magic, a little zhuzh,
Yes.
we've had people do custom web development, custom mobile development, custom widgets. You can do that stuff all by yourself if you want, but if you are a person like me who is like, I would prefer you do it for whatever reason, Xero does do that. They'll scope with you based on project requirements, time deadlines. They'll be able to build out a proposal based on your project. So absolutely yes. If you do have something that you're like, my internet wish list would include this thing, talk about it, because an internet vendor is going to be able to tell you either we can do this or here's how it could be done.
Love that.
That's a great question.
It was a
Great question.
I think that's our time. Thank you,
Okay.
Melissa, so much. We are so fortunate to have you here at Xero, and you're just a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate you. Thank you so, so much for everything. And thank you all for joining us. Don't forget, you'll be sent a recording after this webinar, along with a starter packet that we've made for you guys, and then our Buyer's Guide ebook, which you'll all get in one lovely little package with the bow. And once again, if you could take a moment to share your feedback with the survey that pops up as soon as we're done, we would appreciate it. So
Yeah. Send us your questions. Yes. Happy hunting.
Yeah. All right.